Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and today we'll be driving the 9th generation Toyota Corolla. So in the late 1990s, Takeshi Yoshida-san from Toyota was given the inevitable task of being the chief engineer for the new Toyota Corolla. Now this time he wanted to do something that would be more acceptable for the most challenging market in the world, not the US, in fact Europe. And that's a difficult car. Toyota had never managed to break through with the previous generation car, and the styling of that car in actual fact was quite divisive. The back and the front of the car had got quite mismatched styling. So in actual fact, he wanted to challenge the guys at ED2, which is the Toyota Design Centre in Europe, to come up with something that was more European and more Germanic. Well, they succeeded. So from some angles, you see this car ditches that mismatched front and rear, and certainly from the rear three quarters, it looks very much like a first generation Audi A3. Now, just coming down this tight road, we can see that the handling of this car, actually, did they succeed in their task of out-golfing golf? Well, we'll find out during the course of the review, because that was their stretching target. So in terms of interior fit and finish, the car is a massive step ahead of its predecessor. And in some ways, it does out-golf golf. However, in terms of handling, honestly, having driven the car just a short period already and before we started videoing, it's not quite a Focus Mark 1 with its control braid suspension, but you can bet your bottom dollar it's probably a lot more reliable than the Focus, I guess. So gone were the S, GS and GLS grades, and what was presented at the 2001 Frankfurt Motor Show was the T2, T3, T-Spirit and T-Sport nomenclature. So this was completely new. In actual fact, this became synonymous with the whole Toyota range, and they actually use this moving forward. So one thing the car did benefit from was low repair costs for front and rear damage, but in actual fact, safety moved up quite a step. You've got passenger driver airbags, passenger airbags, in fact side airbags, and deservedly the car scored a 4-star NCAT test. Now, at a time when the only single car that had a 5-star was the newly launched Renault Laguna, this was a massive benefit for the Toyota in its class, and certainly it's well deserved, and it's a safe car for the time. So the one thing that separates this car out more than anything else, this is a 1.6, it's got I think 110 brake horsepower, variable valve timing engine, and this is a little jewel. The way that it revs, the way that it accelerates through this slick 5-speed gearbox is to behold, and it doesn't feel like a car that's almost 20 years old. Now, in terms of aerodynamics, they achieved at Toyota quite a significant benefit with a flat under tray, and also the merging points between the body panels and the glass, you'll notice are extremely flat, and this also adds to the aerodynamic efficiency. So one thing you notice with the brakes on this car, it's got 4-wheel disc brakes, but in fairness, they do require quite a bit of a push to get them to bite. Yeah, it does brake and it does slow well. In terms of the performance, once you get the car rolling, actually, you're not going to be afraid to push that pedal a bit hard. And the handling, although it's not quite a Focus, as I mentioned before, actually handles quite well. You can make good progress in this car. Now, in terms of dash layout, this car is absolute simplicity compared to the cars of today. You've got really clear instruments. In terms of being able to use the audio system, everything's labelled. There's nothing hidden away in a touch screen or in a hidden menu. In actual fact, it really is a joy to drive and a really simple car to drive. So the driving position in this car might not be for everybody. I mentioned the seats are comfortable, but getting in and out of the car is very easy. The hip position is actually quite high up there, and that might not be for all drivers, but in actual fact, the trade-off is pretty good comfort with this car. The other thing worth mentioning is this was a pretty much all British car. It was built at the Toyota UK manufacturing plant at Burniston, and that's in Derbyshire. That's the 3 and 5 door versions, although the smaller selling estate and station wagon versions were built in Turkey, I believe. Despite the car's really sort of peaky revvy engine, it does actually pull quite well. There's a reasonable amount of torque with the car, and to be honest with you, getting used to the Japanese setup for the wipers and the lights and so on, it's taken a bit of getting used to it. I've certainly forgotten about that, unfortunately, but hopefully I can remind myself. So let's pull up in a second and let's try and summarise what we've learned about the 9th generation Toyota Corolla. So did the guys at Toyota succeed in outgolfing golf? Well, potentially in terms of engine performance, the range of variable valve timing engines really do punch above their weight. They're revvy. They're certainly engines that are not lost against some of the engines, more modern turbocharged engines of today. In terms of interior quality, things like the soft dash, the damped handling, damped parts, certainly inside the car, don't let the car down. And in actual fact, it's really proved to be a quality vehicle. Now, this one dates from the early 2000s, so we're going to have a chat with the owner. The car's been in the family for quite a long while, so it'd be great to understand, as a younger driver, why he picked a Toyota Corolla, what he likes about the Corolla, and why one of these might be a great car for you to own today. So let's have a chat with Callum in a second and see what he's got to say. So I'm here with Callum now, who owns this fabulous example of a Toyota Corolla. What year is this?
2002.
2002. You've got a strong family connection with this car, haven't you? Because it's not just a Toyota Corolla, it's your granddad's car, isn't it?
Yeah, so he bought it new in Barnsley in 2002. And then I remember riding around in the back and even in a baby seat in the front.
Oh, wow.
When I was, well, from 2 years old. So I've been in this car since I was 2 years old, and in 3 months I turned 23.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible.
yeah.
So you've known this car all of that time, over 20 years.
So I remember my granddad having one Volvo, vaguely, like split memory of it. It was a Volvo, I can't remember which one it was. But
I think a 340, yeah.
Yeah. It was either a red one or a blue one because he had two. But I remember being in this car for, well, forever. You know, coming back from my grandparents when I was...
So that's the emotional connection, the attraction to driving it day to day. Tell me about driving this day to day, how you find this, because it's a car from over 20 years ago.
Well, see, it doesn't feel like that, really. And there's nothing about this that I don't like. It's not super sporty and it's not an Audi S1 or anything fancy, but it doesn't feel like there's anything more you need. And I quite like having CDs. It's quite nice to put a mixtape in. And
it is. Well, we've all got, many of us have got CDs still in our loft.
Well, I've got a boot full of
them.
Well,
that's good. It's a good use of. So initially, this car would have had, surprisingly, would have had a very early turn-by-turn navigation system, and I'll cut in some shots of that because that's quite cute to see how that looks today. But in terms of the repairs and running repairs, you've done quite a lot of work on this yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's always had. I mean, my granddad got it serviced at the dealership until he gave it up in 2016. Wow. So until then, it was every year at the dealership where he bought it from. And then when I got it, it didn't go back to a dealership.
Right.
It's just every time I've been to a dealership, it's always been a complete pain.
Right.
But it's been at the local garage, and it's been there so many times over so many years that I'm now friends with them, basically.
Oh, excellent.
So every time I show up, he goes, "Oh, your mate's here." It's like, I'm not a friend, I'm a customer, but it's had a service every year.
Right.
Full service, this complete service history as well.
And legendary Toyota quality and reliability has been...
Oh yeah, no, it's been completely fine. It even got me home because the alternator died on it maybe 2 years ago.
Right.
So, it was playing up, and there was a bunch of electrical faults, and the power steering was playing up and things like that, and it'd take a bit to start. But even with a completely messed up alternator, you could get it to start, and it messed up. Nearly got stuck in a vet's car park that was really tight and I couldn't jump start it. But I was like, I'll just turn it off a bit and disconnect the battery for 5 minutes, reconnected it again, and it started up. It spluttered a bit, but it started up. and then got me home, and then it still started the next morning and got me to the garage for a new alternator.
Wow.
So.
And Callum, tell me, one area you have done some work, I know, is on the bodyworks. And I'll cut in some shots shortly about that, so you can see what Callum's done to preserve this car and keep it on the road. But tell us what you've done in terms of the bodywork. That's more extensive, isn't it?
So it was last year, thereabouts, October last year, started noticing some rust coming down the bottom of the sills, you know, by the wheel arches at the back. So I took it to my body shop guy. It's ridiculous, but I have two of them. And so I took it to one of them, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's not that bad." Well, because I had the dents pulled out of it at the same time. In fact, I had some dents pulled out of it that were put in 2 weeks after it got bought in.
Oh wow!
my granddad's work.
Emotional dents. You've got emotional attachment.
I know.
To
I did slightly feel bad about taking them out because I was like, but he'd never got them pulled out for some reason. He probably looked at them every day and thought, oh, they look naff, but never bothered to get them pulled out. But it was, so all the dents got pulled out. It had new headlights, actual, not just the bulbs, but the casings. They're all new. That did a lot for it. But then while that was getting done and there was some bits getting painted, because there was a bit of rust by the latch underneath the boot, and apparently that's a spot where a lot of them go, because the water runs down the inside, catches the edge of the latch and splits it, and then it starts to rust. So I had that done, and while he was doing that, he just went underneath and repainted the sills, and it didn't look too bad.
Right.
But then one more winter sort of killed it off.
Right.
And took it to another place, because I thought, well, it's gonna need doing properly, and I needed a place where I could get the bodywork done as well as the paint. Because I know a few places that will do the welding, but they'll not do the paint, and I didn't want to be driving around on salted roads during the winter with no paint on it.
No,
that would have been
a
ridiculous.
Sacrilege, wouldn't it? Sacrilege,
it would have been twice as much of a problem as it would have been before. But the rear arches on this have carpeted arches that are held in with sort of like studs.
Right.
And when they took those off, there was a 5-inch hole behind each of them into the bodywork.
Time your heart sinks, guys, isn't it, when
no,
something like that happens?
It was going to be an 800-pound job, and he took them off. He was like, "This is not an 800-pound job anymore. This is quite a bit more." But
you persevered. You
went through it. Oh
yeah.
The photos look horrendous. Absolutely. When he sent me them, I was like, "Oh God, it's going to the scrapyard." But it all got sorted.
Oh, fabulous.
But it was outer, middle, and inner skin from above the rear wheel arch to probably about a third of the way down the sill underneath the doors. So that all got cut out, and that's new metal. And then underneath as well, that's new metal under the sill there. And it's new paint all the way from... So it's all painted right from the front wheel arch on the bottom. And what do you call it? You know, to stop the chips. Paint.
Stone chip
paint. It's like the rough paint. It's got that all the way from the front wheel to the back.
Right.
Up the rear wheel arches, up the back, above the doors. The boot and the rear bumper is all new paint. Right. So it all looks great now. It didn't, but it all looks great now.
Well done for persevering and keeping this keeping this car on the road. It's probably a future classic. Not so many will get the attention they deserve and end up in a scrapyard prematurely. So, well, thanks for letting us drive the car today. Thanks for talking to us about it.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So if you'd like to see your car on the Lot 76 Cars channel and a review of the car, then please feel free to contact me. I'll put the address in the clip shortly, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. So thanks again for watching Lot 76 Cars and this review of the 9th generation Corolla. I hope you found it interesting and informative, and interesting to hear the owner's story with this car. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so as not to miss my next video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.